Okay, so I want to share with you guys a budget template that you can use for your projects when you're calculating and estimating your budget. This is just an example, of course, and there are many ways in which you can calculate the budget for a project. And I've done it in many multiple ways throughout my career. But I want to show you this particular example because it's very simple and I think it's very easy to understand. And it goes through some of the concepts you learned when we were doing that Project Management 101 at the beginning of the course. So let me walk you through the template and I'll share a link so you can download it and you can play with this or you can use it for your projects, right? So we have here at the top a column for the role, the name of the resource that's going to be working on the project, and the month of the year. And finally, we have a total, right? And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so it's easier for you guys to read. Let me just leave it a little bit smaller. Okay, so we have here some of the roles that are, let's imagine this is a project XYZ, and we have 6 people working on the project: a project manager, change manager, a business analyst, a customer support officer, a developer, and a designer. All right. We don't know their names yet. It's not really relevant at this point. And the other thing we need to pay for is not just people, but we have to pay for licensing because this is a software project. We're bringing in a new system. We have to do some setup and initial configuration. We have to do some training and support. We also have to pay a vendor who has to come in and help us with the implementation. We also have to pay for travel expenses for some people that are on the team. And in case there's any other costs that come up, we're going to put them all under other. And we're going to assume a 10% contingency for this project. It's always a good practice to have some contingency. And it doesn't have to be 10%. It can be 2%. It can be 5%. It can be 15%. It can be 20%. It really depends on your business and the options that they give you. But from experience, a lot of people are not going to give you any contingency at all. So you need to try to keep that percentage low and reasonable. Okay. Generally, 10% or 5%, it is pretty reasonable. You'll also notice here in row 19 that I have working days. And that's because each month has different working days. And this is going to vary depending on which country you're in, which state, and so on, right? So if there's a public holiday or, a state holiday or something like that, and it's not going to be a working day, then you need to take that out of your calculations because that's one day less that you're going to work. So for example, here in Australia, in February, it's a short month. There's, I put that there because there's a holiday there. So when I looked at the calendar and I counted how many working days there were in that particular month, it was 19. Okay. I can't actually recall if it's actually due to a holiday or just because it's a short month per se, but anyway, you get the idea. And below, I've added the percentage of allocation for each person per month. So for example, the project manager, he's going to be working throughout the whole project 50% of his time. So half of his time, he's going to be working on this project, right? And we're assuming this project is going to take a whole year, right? But if this was a project of 6 months, then, you just delete these other months that you're not going to need in your calculations. But let's assume this project has these 6 people working on the project. They're allocated to the project this percentage each month. And these are the working days per year. Okay. And like I said before, it doesn't mean that you have to leave everyone. For example, if I'm projecting or estimating that the project manager is going to work 50%, it doesn't mean he needs to be 50% throughout the whole project. If, for example, in another part of the project, he was in the second semester of the project, he was working 80% on it, then you can just update this and this will automatically update your numbers up here. Right, let's do it just real quickly. I'm going to put here 80% and look at what happens up here. This 8,000 is going to grow. Right? Of course, because if he's working 80% of his time, then we have to pay him more. All right, on this project. So let's take that back to 50%. Okay. And let's look now at the business analyst. So you can see here that the first 6 months, the business analyst is working 100%. And then for the second part of the year, she's working only 50% on the project. And again, that can vary. It could be different. But in this scenario that we're doing, this is what we're assuming. And the reason I wanted to do that was just to show you that it doesn't have to be the same throughout the whole year. It can actually vary by month or how you want it to vary or how you need it to vary depending on the project. Okay. Generally, of course, it's just easier to put someone on the project for the whole project for the same percentage of time. But it really depends on what you negotiate with that person that's going to be working on the project and their manager, right? The person that is managing and controlling the resources. If, for example, the people that are working on the project don't report to you. And that's what's going to happen a lot of times when you're a project manager. You're going to have to be planning resources with people that don't report to you. So you just need to validate those numbers with, the people that manage that resource or those resources and make sure they're happy with that. And then at the bottom, we also have the rate per hour. So this rate per hour is, of course, the same throughout the whole year or throughout the whole project because, well, generally, let's say salaries are increased in January and then they're the same for one whole year, right? It's very rare to find people or businesses that are changing their salaries, every 3 months or every 6 months or so. But if, you're in a business that's doing that, we'll just update the number. But I'm going to go with the assumption that someone or a resource working on this project gets paid X amount and that amount per hour, and that amount doesn't change in a year, right? So how do we get to this number that we have to pay the project manager $8,400 in January and, the change manager $3,000 and so in January? Well, if I double click that in Excel, it's going to show you the formula. Right? So let's look at the formula carefully. We're saying we're multiplying the working days in that month times the percentage of allocation that person is working on the project on that month times the rate per hour that person is working for the project or, his hourly rate times the number of hours in a day, right? So, which is 8 in this scenario. I'm assuming that we're working 8 hours per day. So that gives you the total amount we have to pay that resource for a month. And remember, this is not the salary of that person. It's actually how much we have to pay them for the project. And generally, this hourly rate that you're seeing below, well, generally that hourly rate is taking into account the ongoing costs, because you have to pay for everything. It's not just their salary. You have to pay for their pension, health benefits, and so forth. I mean, in terms of the business, in terms of what that resource costs to the business. And that's how you budget in your project. If you don't know this number because it's not public and it's not in a table in your company, then talk to someone in finance and ask them to confirm what rate you should be using for a particular resource and for estimating your project budget. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, if you go here to the right, you're going to see that this is just adding up all the months of the year. Okay, I'm going to double click on that to show you. And then that's the horizontal one. And then if we do the vertical one here, it's going to be adding all the costs that are part of January. Okay. And like I said, there could be other costs aside from resourcing, like the ones we're seeing here on the left. So for licensing, for example, we're assuming that this project, we have to pay $180,000 in total, $90,000 in April and $90,000 in September. For setup and configuration, we're going to have to pay $48,000, and we're, assuming in this scenario that we have to pay that in June. It doesn't need to be June, of course, that depends on your project. But let's go with this example. In training, we're going to pay $65,000, and the vendor is going to charge us $200,000 the whole year for the whole project. And, we've negotiated with them. We're going to pay them quarterly $50,000, and we're going to pay for them after we've signed off on their deliverables. And that's what we agreed with the vendor. And then this traveling cost is going to be just $3,500. We just put a little bit of money for traveling, not much. And we don't have any other costs at this stage for the project. When we add up the whole of all the costs that are part of the project, we come to the number of $1.1 million, right? So this is how much this project is going to cost. It's going to cost us $1.1 million to deliver this project, project X, Y, Z. And that's it. That's pretty much how you create your budget. And this is your baseline, right? Because these numbers at this stage, when you're in the discovery phase and you're just doing your initial, or in your planning phase and you're doing your initial budget, this is all a forecast, right? It's a baseline. It's what you think you're going to spend. I think I'm going to spend 1.1 million with the information I have right now and with the assumptions I'm making right now. I could actually end up spending less than that or more than that. And that's going to depend on the actuals, the number of hours people actually work on the project. If something, that you hadn't planned for comes up, but, your goal as a project manager is to try to hit this number. And this number is key. This number is one of those KPIs that they're going to be measuring you against. people are going to want to see you hit that number or get pretty close to it, as close to it as you can. So save your document, save your budget so you can reference it in the future. And you have to create a separate file for your actuals. This number, this budget, you create it once and you kind of archive it and keep it as a reference. And if you're going in discussions and, for example, you send this to your manager and he says, no, I don't want you to put 10% in contingency, then you need to change this number from 10 to 5 because he asked you to reduce the contingency. Well, you just reduce it and then just save this file as version 2, right? So you keep history and you keep track of what you're changing in the budget. And that's just for you more as a PM to reference and go back to if you need to. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'll share this file in a link so you can download it and you can look at it in more detail and you can play around with it. This is one of the ways that you can estimate your budget, your project budget. And like I said before, I wanted to show this specific example or this way of calculating your budget because I think it's one of the easiest ways for you to understand how to do it. There's many other ways. There's more complex formulas. There's more complex files you could use. But like I told you before, as a project manager, I like to keep things simple and I like to, use very simple formats, very simple templates. And the easier it is for me to understand and to use, I think it's also very easy for someone else to understand and comprehend the information I'm trying to convey. And if I send them this file, I want them to be able to look at it and, understand easily what I was doing and how I came up with the numbers. Okay, so that's pretty much how you calculate a budget in project management. About job opportunities and how big is the job market for project managers. And I have some really good news for you guys. It's huge. There's just a lot of job opportunities out there. And the salaries are really good as well. They tend to oscillate between $80,000 up to $200,000 a year. But there's project managers that make well over $200,000. And you might think I'm exaggerating about this, but I'm not. I have seen this and I've met people that are making over $200,000 a year. And I'll show you a little bit of market research in a moment so you can validate this information and check out that it's just true. It's just how it is. Again, if we look at different statistics out there online, you're going to find different average salaries. You're going to find different ranges. But what I'm saying to you right now is not just theory. It's actually a reality. And we'll see that in a moment. So before we look at job opportunities, let's look at the salaries, all right? And I'm going to take you right now to this website, which is from roberthalf.com.au. And you're going to find a lot of information here about the job market for project managers and the average salaries and the salary range. If you look at the information below here, it's stating that the average salary is $115,000, which is really good. It's actually a pretty good salary and it's a lot higher than a lot of roles out there. And if you look at the range, It's amazing. It's a really good range. It just gives you a sense of the opportunity and how much growth potential there is out there for a project manager. So, junior project managers can be starting off with $62,000 and they can be earning up to $168,000. But like I said before, from my experience and from what I have seen in the market and from the job opportunities that I've seen out there, I think this range is actually not accurate. I think the accurate range is between $80,000 and $200,000 a year. Now let's look at a different source and see what we find. So let's go to Seek. I'm going to take you here to Seek, which is one of the biggest job search engine here in Australia. And what you're going to find here is that the average salary for a PM is $119,000 per year. And if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to see that the minimum average salary is $104 and the max is $134. So that's a little bit different than what we saw a moment ago, but not too different. Like I said, this doesn't surprise me because if you look at different sources and if you look at different articles and if you just Google salary of a project manager, you're just going to find very different information from very different sources. And the reality is that there's a lot of factors that play into how much a project manager makes. It has to do with his experience, his level of knowledge, his seniority, if he has any certifications, if he has a master's. There's many factors that play into that. And of course, it will vary as well. If you look at the country, the city, even within the country, you're going to find different salaries depending on which city you're living in. And of course, it's also going to vary depending on which sector, industry, and company. And there's a lot of companies that don't even disclose how much they pay their project managers because they don't want to make that information public for diverse reasons. Some are paying them a lot, some are not paying them much. So it really depends. But like I said before, just kind of go with the numbers that I'm giving you, which is a pretty accurate, bracket of how much a project manager can make. 80,000 up to 200,000, right? And let's just go out there and see a couple of job opportunities so we see the number of how many you can find and the salaries as well. So I'm going to take you to Seek, which, like I said, is probably the biggest job market search engine here in Australia. Okay, so let's go to Seek. And this is what Seek looks like. And I'm going to enter here in the keywords project manager. Right? And I'm going to leave it open like that just so we look at how many job opportunities come up. Okay, I'm not going to put a salary range yet, and I'm not going to put a city, I'm not going to put any of that data yet, right? Let's just look at that, what happens. See, what's really interesting about this result is that you're seeing here almost 7,000 job opportunities for project managers. That's really a lot. So even if you spent sending CVs and you sent one CV every day for a whole year, you wouldn't even be able to apply to all the job opportunities that are out there. Why? Because a year has 365 days. And we're seeing here over 7,000, almost 7,000 job opportunities just on this website. And there's many more job opportunities, and there's many more job websites where you can search and find other job ads and other job opportunities for project managers, right? Now, I was saying to you guys that there's a lot of job opportunities also above 200,000, right? So let's do the exercise and let's say we want to see how many job opportunities are out there for project managers above 200,000. And check this out. It's almost 1,000, and that, I know that's not huge, but it's still a lot. There's still a lot of project managers and project management opportunities out there over 200,000. And of course, you're going to find here different, industries. For example, this is design and build. This is probably for a construction project manager, but hey, there's here one below for, for technology infrastructure and, utilities. Let's see what's out there here. IT. I think this one is a bank. Yep. And the other interesting thing about this is, check this out. This is just 2 days ago. So it's really fresh. There's just a lot of things coming up every day for project managers. And it's really exciting because you look at this 10 hours ago, 8 hours ago, it's all really recent. So you can, like I said, just find a lot of job opportunities out there that will lead to career growth and, you making more money or having a different experience, working for a different sector, for a different company. It's just really interesting, the world of project management. And it's just one of the benefits of being a project manager. Now, this is an Australian website, and I know a lot of you guys are not here in Australia. So let's go to an American website, all right? So let's go to monster.com. Okay, and this is one of the biggest job market search engines in the US, right? And I actually like a lot better the Australian website just because I think it's a little bit more intuitive, and I think the search gives you a little bit more options, and it's just easier for you to search for job opportunities. But that's all right. Let's give it a go anyway and just see what we come up with. So let's enter here the same that we entered before. Project manager. Okay, here it's coming up. Project manager, and I want to see what comes up. So check this out. This site is telling us there's over 1,000 jobs for project managers. And I can see here below that there's a lot that are really recent, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, 1 day ago. And, let's go to this one. I don't know. Office 365 project manager. Let's see what it says. Okay, let me see if it says anything about the salary. You don't see in this one a lot of information about the salary. So like I said before, some companies, they just don't disclose how much they're willing to pay you until you've actually gone through interviews and stuff like that. And I'm going to close this thing here. Let's just look at this one, Agile Scrum Project Manager. This one isn't specifying the level of salary either. Yep, leave. Let's go back. So it seems it might be also that this website doesn't require employers or potential employers to disclose the level of salaries or how much they're willing to pay. But anyway, the point is we just wanted to look at job opportunities and just how big it is. And unfortunately, this website, unlike the Australian one, it doesn't tell you specifically how many jobs are out there. It just tells you there's over 1,000. So I don't know if that's 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 or whatever. But in any case, don't worry. I'm sure it's a huge number, even more in the US, because the US, well, it's just way bigger than Australia. So the job market over there is just huge. And for project managers, it is just really big. So let's just go to another one, which is called Indeed. Indeed.com. All right. So this one is the American version, although I think because I'm in Australia, it automatically takes me to the Australian version. But okay, for jobs in the US, please visit Indeed.com. All right. I want to go there. Okay. So it took us to the American website. And what? Let's put here project manager. Yep. It automatically puts it up there. Project manager. And yep, find jobs. And bam, look at this. It's beautiful, beautiful. 357,000. 357,000. That's huge. It's huge. And look at this. Project manager salaries in the US. It says here 81,000 per year. They have here a minimum of 52,000 and a max of 124,000. Again, I don't think this bracket is accurate because I have seen a lot of project manager ads in the US for, 150, 160, even 200,000. So it just really depends on a lot of things. But anyway, even if you're looking at this and you want to take this as the absolute truth of what you're seeing, that's okay. It's still a pretty good salary. Someone making $81,000 a year on average, I think is pretty good. And I'm sure that's pretty well above the average salary across all industries in the country. And if you look at the max, well, it just shows you that there's a lot of potential for growth from 81,000 up to 124,000. And let's just scroll a little bit and just look at different things that come up. Okay, so here's a good example. And I like this one because it says project coordinator. So it's someone that is not even a project manager yet. It's kind of like a junior project manager, or even before becoming a junior project manager, you start off as a project coordinator. And check this out. They're offering $128,000 for a project coordinator. So imagine how much they would offer a project manager or a senior project manager. And in this website, this Indeed website, it's a little bit better, I think, than this other monster site, which doesn't tell you a lot about the salaries and doesn't tell you specifically how many results it found. So let's go back to the Indeed one. And look at this. You can search by full-time, contract, part-time, temporary. You can search by location. I think that's pretty good. Level of experience. So, mid-level, entry, senior manager, or senior level. So if, for example, you're just starting off, you might want to focus your search in, like entry level project management roles. And that would be a good place to start. And of course, don't expect to get paid $200,000 a year if you don't have the experience, if you're just starting to manage projects. But the point is that if you are just starting in the industry, over time, that's where you can get to. You can grow into those roles and you can grow into making more money. Let's look at here at this example where it says salary estimate 100,000 plus, right? And it says here in these results that I'm seeing right now, I'm sure if you look at it at home, you're going to find that varies on the days, but it's always going to be a huge number. So if we go here and we click on 100,000, so it's showing me job opportunities over 100,000, right? And that will depend, like I said, depending on exactly how much. It will depend on different things like the city, the role, specifically which company you're applying to, which industry, and so on. And then the other really interesting thing, like I've said before, is that it's not just project management roles in technology or in construction. You find things out there across all industries. For example, electrical project manager. So this is for someone that's really technical, and 120,000 a year, it's pretty good. Salesforce project manager, American Express. So this is probably, for someone working within the financial or banking industry. So you find, a lot of diversity out there for project managers. And that's one of my favorite things about project management. And that's one of the things I love about project management. And that's one of the things that should get you really excited about getting into the industry, becoming a project manager, and managing projects.